did anyone, we are reviewing for our math test tomorrow. Before I get started, I know that I told you guys that you could go ahead and start working on this. That way if you had any questions, I can make sure to answer them today. Did anybody start working on these and then has questions of ones they want to make sure we go over? All right, so we're going to start page 261. Okay, now, when you guys took the mid-chapter test, you did seem to do really well on equivalent fractions, so I'm not going to really spend any time there today. You know that to find equivalent fractions, you multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number, or you divide the numerator. What? Or you divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number, the one you took last Friday. All right. When I divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number, what is that called? I'm finding an equivalent fraction and I'm dividing by the same numerator and denominator. What is that called? Well, but when I'm doing that, there's a math term that we use. I'm simplifying the fraction because I'm using smaller numbers. That's why it's called simplifying. I'm using smaller numbers. All right. Now, something that we struggled with was common denominators. Right? I'm going to move my scratch paper here, and I'm going to kind of put my book to the side so you guys can see the scratch paper. What is a common denominator?
It's a part of a whole that's number on the part of a whole that's the same as the number. Like if you have the same number on each side, it's a common denominator.
Okay.
The number on each side is the same.
I think you're close. Okay, common denominators, fractions with common denominators have the same size pieces. What that means is that the number on the bottom is the same. Common denominators have the same denominator. So when I'm asking which of these fractions has a common denominator, what number has to be the same?
The denominator or the
numerator? No! If I have a common denominator, which numbers are going to be the same? The top numbers or the bottom numbers? The bottom numbers, because that's the denominator. So now, question number 7 says to write each pair of fractions as a pair of fractions with a common denominator. So 7 gives me 3/4 and 7/8. Okay. Let it focus. So I have 3/4 and 7/8. How will I find a common denominator? Here's a hint. There's a chart on the board. Okay, first I'll list the multiples of the denominators. What are the denominators in these two fractions?
4 and 8.
4 and 8. I am not creating a fraction, I'm creating a multiple table here. All right, let me list the multiples of 8. Let's list the first 3.
4, 8,
No, I'm listing the multiples of 8. What's the first one?
8,
16 and 24. All right, let's list the multiples of 4.
4, 8, 12, 16.
Do I have to go past 8?
No.
I do not, because once I get to 8, I have found what?
A connection.
A common multiple. So a common multiple can be my common denominator, right? So I've listed the multiples of the denominators. I have found the lowest common multiple. Now I'm going to find equivalent fractions with the lowest common multiple as the denominator. So I have 3/4, and I am going to find an equivalent fraction that has 8 as the denominator. Will I need to do anything with the 7/8? I will not, because it already has 8 as the denominator. All right? 4 times what number equals 8?
2.
4 times 2 equals 8. So if I multiply the denominator by 2, what do I do with the numerator?
You multiply 3 times 2.
Yes, so what do I get when I multiply 3 times 2?
6.
I get 6. So 3/4 and 7/8. If I'm writing that as a pair of fractions with a common denominator, it will be 6/8 and 7/8. Let's do number 8. All right, so I want to do 2/3 and 1/4. What do I do first? I list the multiples of both denominators. So I'm going to make myself a multiple chart. Unless you can tell me a common multiple right off the bat. Anybody? 12? Yes. So if I do 3, 6, 9, 12, and then I've got 4, 8, 12. The lowest common multiple is 12. Some of them you will just learn, right? Okay. So now I have found the lowest common multiple. That's going to be my denominator. What do I do?
You multiply, you get 2/3
I'm going to find a equivalent fractions
that equals
with 12 as my new denominator. All right, let's start with 2/3. 3 times what equals 12?
4.
3 times 4. So what am I going to do with the 2? I'm going to multiply it by 4. So 2 times 4 equals 8. All right, now let's do 1/4. 4 times what equals 12?
3.
3. So now what am I going to multiply the 1 by?
3. And you'll get 3.
Yeah, 3. So what are my two fractions?
8
12ths and
3/3.
3/12ths. All right, do number 9. Do number 9 on your own. Follow the steps. Okay, so walking around, everybody I saw had step 1, where I'm finding the multiples of my denominators. So with 10, I have 10, 20. I really don't have to go any further. What are my multiples of 5?
5.
Okay. Most of y'all went with the lowest common multiple. I can go with any common multiple, but the lowest common multiple just keeps me with the smaller numbers. And generally speaking, smaller numbers are easier to work with. All right. So now, this is where a lot of you are stuck. Once I have identified this lowest common multiple, that is my common denominator. Okay? So I need to take my 2 fractions, and I need to make equivalent fractions for both of them that have my common denominator. Now, do I have to do anything to 7/10? No, I can leave it just the way it is. Now, I have to do something to 4/5. So now I look, and I think, 5 times what equals 10? 2. So in order to get the denominator of 10, I multiplied the denominator here by 2. To generate an equivalent fraction, I multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So I'm going to multiply my 4 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8. So my 2 fractions are 7/10 and 8/10. Say it one more time.
Can we do 10, 11, 12, and 13 by 2?
We're going to skip to number 14, actually. Okay? I'm going to do one of these to remind you. Okay, remember when you compare, you could use your fraction models, your bars or your circles. I generally go with the butterfly just because it's quick. Okay, I go from the bottom to the top. 12 times 5 here is 60. 8 times 5 is 40. And then I'm going to do my greater than, less than to match the numbers at the top. So 60 is greater than 40. So 5/8 is greater than 5/12. All right? Those you can do on your own as you study tonight. Let's talk about putting fractions in order. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do when I'm putting fractions in order, again, I can do this a couple of different ways. I can use models. Right? Tomorrow when you take your test, if you want to open up Polypad, that's the manipulatives, and use your fraction models to put fractions in order, you can do that. If you want to use the fraction bars that you made, you can do that. You can also use this method. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to identify if the fraction is greater than 1/2 or less than 1/2. Is 2/3 greater than 1/2 or less than 1/2? It is greater than 1/2. Okay, if I have, I gave away my fraction strips. Okay. If I have a model and it's divided into 3 pieces and I have 2 of those pieces, that's more than half, because half is about right there, right? So that's greater than 1/2. What about 3/4? Guys, if the numerator is only one number away from the denominator, That's more than 1/2. Unless it's a 1/2. Unless it's a 1 over a 2. Right? Because if I have my whole and it's divided into 4 parts, and I have 3 of those, you know, the half is right here. So is 3/4 greater than 1/2 or less than 1/2? It's greater than 1/2, okay? Is 1/6 greater than 1/2 or less than 1/2? Less than 1/2. So if these two are bigger than 1/2 and this one is smaller than 1/2, 1/6 is the smallest.
They're not here.
No, I've got Cody. Well, Cody is actually, he's not coming to, he said he's going to be out tomorrow, and we've got a lot of tests tomorrow, so he is with Miss Jackson
Okay.
taking tests, and then I've got Jaden and Jeremiah.
Okay. All my others are absent.
So, but you can have Jaden and Jeremiah.
You want to keep them? Or
I can keep them.
Okay. All right. Everybody else in the other group's absent, so I just, and I can't go move on with our lesson. We're just-
Yeah. Okay.
I'll get y'all.
All right. Okay. So if 1/6 is the only one that's less than 1/2, then that's the smallest fraction, yes? All right. So now I just need to compare 2/3 and 3/4, right, to decide which is larger. So I'm going to butterfly it. Okay, which is larger, 2/3 or 3/4? 3/4. So 2/3 goes next, and then 3/4. All right, let me pause this.
Is it less high or
Not right now. All right, I want to look through some of these word problems so that you can see what the question is asking, because it doesn't do you any good to know how to do it if you don't know what you're supposed to do. All right. So look at number 16. Paco needs at least 3/8 yard of twine to build a model ship. How much twine could he buy? Here it is. This test is on equivalent fractions. It's on common denominators. Either she'll send you back or I'll call down there and you can come and get it. You can take your lunch with you. Were you planning on taking your lunch or getting the school lunch? Okay, you can take your lunch with you. All right, so we got equivalent fractions, common denominators, comparing fractions, or putting fractions in order. These are the things, these are the skills we're measuring. So what skill do you think I'm going to need to use to find the answer to 16? Jeremiah, what do you think I need to do to find the answer to 16? Am I looking for equivalent fractions, common denominators? Am I comparing fractions or putting fractions in order? For number 16, which skill do I need to use? All right, which skill do I want to use? It is. It's an equivalent fraction because I need to know this question is asking which of these fractions is equivalent to 3/8. So this is equivalent fractions. So to find the answer, I'm going to check each of these fractions to find out if they're equivalent. Now, are there any fractions that I can eliminate right away? That I do not even have to check. So the one that I'm checking against is 3/8. Are there any of these that I can look at the fraction and know it is not going to have the same value as 3/8?
1/8.
Okay, why can I eliminate 1/8? Because the denominators are the same. So the piece size is the same size piece, and I have different numbers of pieces. So that's for sure not the same. Any others that I can eliminate? Okay, when I look at this, I know that I can eliminate 3/10. Why can I eliminate 3/10? Because the numerator is the same. If I have the same number of pieces and different size pieces, those cannot have the same value. So then I can eliminate 3/5 for the same reason. Well, look at that. I don't really even have to do the work if I use my deductive reasoning. But I'm going to check it just to make sure. 3/8. Oh, you know what? I am leading you astray. It's not equivalent fractions. Anybody know where I made my mistake? Anybody want to tell me what I did wrong? Because I did something wrong.
He doesn't need 8/8. He needs 3/8.
No. Okay. He needs at least 3/8. So that means that he can have more than 3/8, right? So I need to know which fraction is greater than 3/8.
3/10.
Is 3/10 going to be bigger than 3/8? I have the same number of pieces, so I'm comparing the size of the pieces. Are the pieces going to be bigger for 3/8 or 3/10?
Oh. What's 3/8?
So 3/10 is too small. 1/8 is too small. So now I have to look at 1/4 or 3/5 and see which one is greater than 3/8. Now, is 3/5, when I compare 3/5 and 3/8, which one is greater? 3/5 is greater than 3/8 because I have the same number of pieces. So actually my answer is 3/5 of a yard. 1/4 is smaller than 3/8. So this is actually comparing. Sorry about that. We got to read the questions carefully, don't we? All right. Rachel, Nancy, and Diego were in a fishing competition. Rachel's fish was 7/8 of a foot longer than Nancy's long, was 7/8 of a foot long. Nancy's fish was 1/4 of a foot long, and Diego's fish was 1/2 foot long. What are the lengths of the fish in order from least to greatest? All right. So what am I comparing here? What am I doing here? What is it asking me to do? Which of these skills is it asking me to work?
Order.
I'm going to put the fractions in order. This is a question about putting the fractions in order. I need to make sure that I do it in the right order, so I'm starting with the the smallest fraction. So if I have 7/8, 1/4, and 1/2, are any of those fractions smaller than 1/2? 1/4 is smaller than 1/2. All right, and then look, I have 1/2, right? Is 7/8 greater than 1/2? Yes, it is. So I have 1/4, 1/2, 7/8. What?
I thought it was supposed to be 1/2, then 1/4.
Is 1/2 smaller than 1/4?
Wait, no.
No, I would say like show you saying 1/4. It's nothing like it's only one that starts with 1/4.
Oh, okay, yeah. So D is my choice. Oh, I see what you're saying, Zanaya. Yes, you are correct. I would go ahead and finish it out just to double check. Because in number 1, that's where I figured out we'd made a mistake in reading the problem. When I went to check this to make sure it was equivalent, I'm like, wait a second, those two fractions aren't equivalent. And so then I reread the question. So always go ahead and finish it out and do the work, because that's what's going to help you catch careless errors.
I think you should always reread the question 2 times.
That's not ever a bad idea. All right. So, I would take these pages home and I would finish them as a way to study for your test. I will check them for you tomorrow. If there are any that you just completely don't understand, I will be able to help you with them tomorrow before your test. What? It is not a grade, but it will help you with your test. All right, I'm looking at 262 and 263. You're looking at 262 and 263. Remember, the first thing you need to do is figure out which skill this question measures, which skill you need to do. 262 and 263.